The All Whites have been beaten in their recent FIFA international window matches by Colombia and Ecuador. Now, these two games were always going to be tough for the All Whites, another big step up from the 29th and 33rd ranked Norwegian and Poland sides they faced in the last international window. However, for the All Whites, they gave Colombia and Ecuador, very much Colombia especially, a really good run for their money. And while these two losses actually slipped them down the FIFA rankings from 85th down to 86th, it's still a positive sign for the All Whites. They head into next year's FIFA World Cup. But I'm Nick from Nickn'detail, and today I'm going to be reviewing the All Whites' recent international football window, which wrapped up yesterday in the United States. So let's get into it. That's right, for the All Whites, once again, in quick succession, they were back in action. And actually, in fact, this actually is going to change from next year. We're actually going to see the October and November international windows merged into one, just so there's not that cohesion in regards to really quick succession international windows. But for the All Whites, though, once again, back in action against top quality ranked opponents. And this time it was the 13th ranked Colombians and the 23rd ranked Ecuadorians, which of course wrapped up in the United States yesterday. But despite that, the All Whites fell to two defeats. 2-1 against Colombia and Miami, and then their 2-0 defeat to Ecuador in New York yesterday afternoon. So let's get my thoughts on these games. Well, actually, to be fair, it was a bit of a mixed bag for the All Whites. For the Colombia game, it was probably the best performance I've seen from this All Whites team in a couple of years, just showing just how much this side has come in the few years Darren Baisley has been in charge. Just the whole attacking mindset, the defensive mindset, just everything about them. They just look like a way better team than what they've looked in the last few years. And the fact they're able to give a Colombia side very much filled with their stars, Luis Diaz, James Rodriguez, some of the names actually were playing in this game for Colombia, a really good run for their money. I think just shows for the All Whites just how much of a step forward they've taken over the recent international windows, and actually did get a goal as well, courtesy of Ben Old off the bench as well, and actually created some fair good chances across these two games. I think Ecuador, we saw a different sort of game for the All Whites, where they were very much more defensive and probably not as polished as what they looked against Colombia the other night. But don't forget, this was an All White squad that would have rotated, would have only played the other day, and Ecuador as well, very much playing their strong team as well. I think more notably led by their captain, Chelsea midfielder Moises Caicedo. But for the All Whites, I think this is a positive sign. Yes, they lost the game. Yes, they need to be scoring goals. And you want to be winning against these top quality teams. Very much teams you're likely going to face in next year's FIFA World Cup. But at the same time, for a side ranked 86 in the world now compared to those ranked 60-odd places ahead of you in the rankings, it's a great sign if you're able to give their strong team a run for their money. But don't forget, this is an All Whites team that aren't at their full strength as well. Chris Wood unavailable due to injury. Liberato Kakache, Alex Poulsen, Callum McCowart all pulling out through injuries. But if anything, this will test the depth of this All Whites team heading into the World Cup. Jesse Randall didn't get much game time, but he showed in those 10-20 minutes he played across those two matches the potential he can bring into this New Zealand side. Francis de Vries, of course, has been deputising for Kakache at left back with him being out injured. De Vries has been looking pretty good as well, and yes, very much just showing just the amount of depth this All Whites team will have going into the World Cup, and keeping these performances up, it's going to make coming up towards March next year a very tough period for Darren Baisley to select his squad. But yes, for the All Whites, a bit of a mixed bag of results across these two games. But I think what we can say is they look very good at the moment, and very much give them another few games, a few international winners to come before the World Cup. I certainly believe this side can be actually putting on a decent showing at next year's World Cup. So who was my standout player across these two games? Well, I'm going to give a shout out to Ben Old. Now, this guy, safe to say, over the last year or so, has been pretty unlucky with his injuries. Of course, made the move over to France last year to Saint Etienne after his impressive performances with the Phoenix. Started life actually there pretty well. Started a couple of games, got a goal, got an assist. So it's actually not looking too bad. And then unfortunately tore his MCL, and that was basically his season done. And of course, came back towards the end of the season. Saint Etienne relegated into Ligue 2, the second tier in France, and so far this season, very much seen Ben Old used as a rotation player off the bench, leaving Saint Etienne in third at the moment on that table. But despite that, for Ben Old, looked very good in this international window, made a big impact off the bench against Colombia, got that equaliser with a tap in at the back post. But even in the second game when he started against Ecuador, he actually looked really good going forward. And of course, remember, this is a front line without Chris Wood, arguably your best player in the team, who just makes those great runs, is such a big target man in the box, and can just pick out lovely through balls to bang them into the back of the net. Of course, we didn't see that this time around with Wood being out injured. But Ben Old very much looked like he wanted to create chances, got into plenty, or actually quite a few good goal scoring opportunities, and probably looked like going forward the most dangerous attacking player in that New Zealand team. So for Ben Old, a very positive sign that he can really cement his spot in this All Whites team, and very much going forward as well, given more game time over in France I think we'll see him being a very much a one-to-watch from the New Zealand team heading into next year's FIFA World Cup. But for Ben Old, my standout player across these two games, a great performance by the midfielder against Colombia and also against Ecuador. Despite the results not going their way, he looked like the best player out on the park in my view. So what's next for the All Whites? Well, that's actually the thing. We don't know what's next for the All Whites. No games have been scheduled for next year, but imagine there will be games scheduled next year. Of course, we do get 2 international windows before the FIFA World Cup, but more notably in a couple of weeks' time, December 6th, is when we find out who the All Whites are going to be playing in the FIFA World Cup. Well, the draw is set to take place once all the the playoffs and qualifiers very much in Europe and also South America all finish up. The FIFA World Cup draw comes out in a couple of weeks' time, but then we actually have 2 international windows to come. The March window is the last time before the All White squad is named for the World Cup, and then the June one before then, just under a month later, the FIFA World Cup will take place. So we'll wait to see who the All Whites are going to play. Very much expect them to get some games. We saw the last World Cup, they actually played Australia in a couple of matches, although being that they played them a couple of windows ago on the soccer ashes. Don't imagine that will be happening, but even then for the All Whites, I would imagine very much they'll get some friendlies and possibly even in in the United States, even Mexico, maybe Canada as well. They've already played in Canada, of course, with the Canadian Shield, at the start of the year. Maybe Mexico could be a place to go to get some games over there, with another venue where it's going to be hosting the World Cup. So very much a wait-to-see moment for the All Whites to see what's next for them. But of course, that World Cup draw is very much the next big thing coming up, and that is in a couple of weeks' time. So that's going to be it for me. Yeah, obviously, once again, disappointed to see the All Whites lose, very much especially against Colombia, where they equalised after conceding early, where we had a bit of a mixed bag of halves in those 2 games, where the All Whites actually looked pretty decent to start the game against Ecuador yesterday, and against Colombia the other day, where they actually just looked a bit slow, but came into the game really well and showed the side they can be. But despite that, for the All Whites, yeah, it's this time of year where, particularly with the World Cup coming up, these results really need to come, and very much goals especially have been lacking. And despite this not being the All Whites' strongest team, I don't think it was a bad showing for them, but yes, very much results do need to happen with the World Cup just around the corner. But for me, that's going to be it. Until next time, I'll see you later.